Now I've got something here that the farmers have got lots of out west. Okay, can you see this, kids? What is it? Soil, it's dirt. Lots of dirt out west. But what are they missing at the moment? Got lots of dirt, but they don't have much water, do they? Oh, here we go. I'll see if I can spill it. They haven't got much of this. Now, what happens when we mix this and that? Oh, it's not a very good thing, is it? Oh, we get water. And what does that make? Mud. Well done. Here we go. We need to build a pile. Can you see this? Oh, man, I need to wash my hands. I never thought I'd do a sermon where I made mud pies, but that's what we're doing. So, if you mix water and dirt, you get mud, and guess what can happen in mud? Quicksand? Things can grow. Things can grow. Things can grow. Oh, I'm going to get some clean hands. I don't know that they're going to be that clean. Okay. I can't get them in there. Okay. But when it doesn't rain, what do we ask? Did you hear Julie before? What do we ask?
Water.
We say we want water, but when it doesn't rain, what do we ask? Starts with W. Why? Why isn't it raining? What's going on, God? Have we done something wrong? You know, how can we fix this? Now, the first story you heard in the Bible was about Elijah. Elijah was a prophet of Israel, and Israel had a really bad king and queen. So God said, it's not going to rain for 3 years. It's not going to rain for 3 years. He was trying to make the king and queen change their minds. And then 3 years later, God came to Elijah and said, the rains are coming. Go tell the king, the rains are coming. And so Elijah went up onto a mountain and he prayed. And he sent his servant and said, go look and see if there's any clouds. And the servant said, no, there's no clouds. And he said, go look again. And he said, no, there's no clouds. And he said 7 times, go look. And eventually the servant came back and he said, there's a cloud as big as a man's hand right on the horizon. And Elijah said, run before you get stuck in the mud, because the rain's coming. So we might think, if it hasn't rained here, does that mean God's angry with us? Have we had a bad prime minister or something? Or a bad prime ministers? Have we made bad decisions as a country? Have we turned away from God? Is this why it's not raining? But why is God punishing the farmers? Why? Well, let's think about this. I want us to go over here. Okay. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. Oh, Lego. Okay. What have we got here? A Lego world. Now, did you know when they first wrote the Bible, at the start of the Bible, most people in the Bible saw the world like this. Can you get it there, Simon? Yeah, he's got it. You had the world and then you had God, and I'm God. And this is how the world works. So watch me. Smash! Oh no, quick, ring the police. Oh, 10-4, there's been a crash. Oh no, my helicopter. There's been a crash. Ring the ambulance. So in the start of the Bible, that's how people thought the world worked. Who moved everything in this world? Who moved everything? Yeah? Who moved everything? Did you see? It was me, wasn't it? I made the cars crash. I made the helicopter fly. I made the police car come. And this is how people at the start of the Bible saw the world. God made everything move. God made the rain fall, the lightning strike, and even a tree fall over. God did it. God was the unmoved mover. So whenever anything happened in their world, they would ask, what's God doing? Why is God doing this? What's the reason behind this? So if there was a drought, God must be angry at us. If you got sick, you must have done something wrong and God was punishing you. But if you won a race, God must like you and he made you run faster than everyone else. And that's how they first thought about things in the Bible. So, in Elijah's day there was a drought. Maybe God was using that belief to send a message. I'm angry at the people. I'm going to send a drought so they'll wake up to themselves. But in the Bible, God began to reveal a few things. He gave them laws. You might remember the 10 Commandments. And he gave them a whole bunch of other laws. And he said, if you follow these rules, good things will happen. If you do this, good things. If you don't do it, bad things will happen. And they started to work out a few things like sowing and reaping. If I plant an apple tree, will oranges grow on it? No. If I tease all my friends or tease all the kids in my class, will anyone be my friend? No. If I hang around fools, what will I become? A fool. Yeah, this is what the book of Proverbs has a whole lot of these things where Solomon observed the world and he says, if you hang around with idiots, you'll become an idiot. But if you hang around with smart people, you'll become smart. So there's this thing where they saw, if you do this, other things will happen. And slowly their view of the world changed from this to this. Oh man, can I get this one to work? Oh, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Does anyone know what this is? It's a marble run. Why is my thing playing up? And so now, I might be God, so I've got some marbles. Oh, that's on a slope. And so I start this thing off. Ooh. Oh, they all got stuck. Woo. So now this is a different kind of world. In this world, God doesn't push things around and make sound effects. In this world, God has a plan. He puts some rules in place, some chemistry and some physics. And so God can sort of start things and off they go. This is what we call a cause and effect world. It's like dominoes. If you push this, it'll all fall down. Now, this is still a reason world, but the reason is different. It's not what reason did God have, it's I've got to find the reason. Why did this spin? Oh, because this ball span it. Why did the tower fall over? It fell on John. Was John a bad person? Oh no, we got to find the reason. It was because they used bad bricks in the tower. So there's still a reason, but it's a cause and effect reason. And when Jesus came, they asked him questions about this. They said, Tom was born blind. He can't see. Was that because Tom did something bad, or was it because his parents did something bad? And Jesus said, no, that's not the way things work. Tom's blind because... We'll come back to what he said there. But another time, a tower had fallen over on some people, and they said, did the tower fall on those people because they were bad? And Jesus said, no. And we heard this in our reading. God causes the sun to rise on the good and the evil. Rain falls on the righteous and the unrighteous. And Jesus was explaining the world not like this, but like this. Things are put in place and they happen. And this actually enters, this is pretty simple, but this kind of world enters, another idea enters this world, and that's the idea of randomness. A coconut falls on you just because it falls on you, not because you did something bad. Things just happen. In this world, God pushes everything around. God moves the cars around. In this world, things follow laws and rules, but then there's randomness to it. Stuff just happens. But you can work out while lots of stuff happens by following the rules. So a tower falls on John. Was John a bad person? No. But if we look at the tower, we'll find Jack didn't build it very well. Maybe Jack's a bad person because he was taking shortcuts. So in this world, the person who sins gets punished. But in this world, that's not always the case. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes things just happen randomly. Like I could cook the barbecue and I could not wash my hands and all of you guys get sick. Does that sound fair? No. And that's what happens in this world. Sometimes things aren't always fair. Now, when people saw this made them think differently. Here they thought that if you sin, God would punish you. If you sin, God would punish you because God's right there. If you do something wrong, watch out, you'll get struck by lightning. If you sin, God will punish you. In this world, they came to realize, if you sin, if you do something wrong, it has its own consequences. If I eat too many lollies, does God have to poke me in the tummy? I get sick because I ate too many lollies. Suddenly they realize that sin has its own consequences. Sin has its own punishment. And that changed the way they saw God. God wasn't an angry God waiting to bless you or curse you depending what you did. God has set up the world based on laws that reveal his nature. And if we follow those laws, then generally, most of the time, things go okay. But if we go against those laws, well, we've only got ourselves to blame. As a parent, do you have to punish your child if he puts his hand in the fire? It's got its own punishment, doesn't it? But at the same time, if your child calls other kids names, you do have to punish them because the consequences for that take a long time to come. If you call other kids names, the consequences will come later. You'll learn the hard way when you're a middle-aged man with no friends, no job, no prospects, because you didn't learn to be kind to people. There you go. Now, this world, we said, it's not always fair. I cook the food, someone else gets sick. I chuck a rock and it hits someone else in the head. I did the wrong thing, but they suffer. In fact, you could be the best person in the world, in this world, and still get nailed to a cross. And in fact, that is actually how God makes this world fair. He dies for our sins so that we can be redeemed, so that all of those who suffer can actually be redeemed. Anyway, that's a bit hard, that bit. Now, so what's all that got to do with the dirt? You need to actually make that journey in your head so that when we ask the question, why isn't it raining, you can think, which world are we in? Why is there no rain? Did the farmers sin? Probably not. No worse than anyone else. There is a reason why it's not raining, but it has to be a reasonable reason. It could just be random, as we heard from Julie. There's been droughts before. Australia is a dry country. Maybe we're silly thinking that we can farm in the desert. But we also know that our weather in Australia and the world is changing. It's getting hotter and drier. It's getting cooler and wetter. We're experiencing more extremes of weather. Now, I know not everyone believes this, but it is quite reasonable and biblical to think that it's our sin that is doing this as a humanity. That we're cutting down too many trees and that we're polluting our world. And so what should we expect from that? We're doing this to ourselves. And unfortunately, it's the farmers who are suffering at the moment. So there is a reason why it might be not quite raining at the moment. And maybe we need to pay more attention to our world. Now, I think greenies have given being environmental a bit of a bad name. And so I'd say I want you to go back to what God created us in the first place. He made us and said, you are caretakers of this world. And so are we taking care of our world? But one question remains, because you might think, hang on a sec, does God still move in this world? How does God interact in the world? If this is not how the world is and this is how it is, how does God move in this world? Well, I actually think this is better. This is more amazing. This is the difference between God playing chess and God creating a robot or a computer that can play chess. How much smarter do you have to be to do that? I can play chess, but I could not create a computer program that played chess. And so God does amazing stuff. When God built the laws of nature and put all this into place, he understood who we would be and he understood how history would go. And so God actually programmed this world so that sometimes, at just the right time, at just the right place, a marble falls into your lap just when you need it. Think about that. How amazing is that, that if God says, okay, I'm going to make this world and I'm going to make sure that at just the right time, at just the right place, a marble falls in your lap just when you need it. And as Julie talked about, the stuff that has come together around our community hub is actually quite amazing. We do not realise how things have come together to put us in this place at the right time to do something amazing. Lee, our project manager, he was saying it. He was saying, it is so rare that you get so many things aligning. He's saying, God is in this. But the only problem is God can't move too much in here. I want to show you something, the last thing. I don't know if you can see this one. This is a homemade pinball machine. Now, who used to play pinball? Any of the oldies? Oh, not many of you, a few. So in pinball, kids, if you don't know, you fire a ball up and then you've got to use... Oh, that wasn't very good. You've got to use the paddles to keep the ball in the air. It's very homemade. Now, pinball machines had a tilt mechanism. Does anyone know what that is? Yeah, a few people. Because the idea of this is you put the ball up, boo, and you've got to keep it up by hitting it with the flaps. Boom, boom, boom. Now, if the ball was going right down the middle between your two flippers, you couldn't catch it. So what you do is you bump it. You bump it and that makes the ball bump and then you catch it. And people work this out pretty quick. I can bump the table and I will keep playing the game. And so people could play the game for ages. People who made the game said, that's not good, we're not making enough money. So they put this thing in called the tilt. If you bumped it, your paddles, your flippers didn't work anymore. So bump, ooh, you lose. So you had to be very careful. You had to bump it, but not too hard, so that you could bump the ball, but the tilt didn't go off. That, I believe, is an image of how God works in this world. God is forever bumping the table to make things just go, ooh, okay, I need to bump something there, bump something there. But God can't bump our world too much or the game is up. Imagine if God's hand came down from the sky every time there was going to be a car crash and he went, "Ooh, I'll save that." We'd all go, "Whoa, what was that?" That would change our world. So God has to bump things. Who's ever been this close to a car crash and you felt like, how did I get out of that? It's like God just did a bump. Now, sometimes God can't bump the world hard enough and we have car crashes. But I know, talking to my friends growing up, they'd said, "You know what? I believe in God because so many times riding my motorbike, I should have hurt myself bad and I didn't." It's like someone's there just bumping. But God can't bump the world too hard or else the game is up. So God still moves in our world through little bumps. But I want to tell you this because this is more important. God still moves and can move in one big place. And it's right here. God moves in human hearts. We have a drought. People are suffering. Is God going to bring the rain? Well, maybe God's bumping things to try and make it line up. Eventually the rain will come, but God can move now in our hearts such that people donate money and time and a listening ear to the situation, such that even if the rain doesn't come, farmers' lives and farms can be saved. Remember, people asked Jesus, "Tom, he was born blind. Was that his fault or was it his parents' fault?" And Jesus said, "Neither. This happened so the work of God could be displayed." And what's the work of God? The work of God is compassion moving in human hearts. That is how God moves and changes the world today. When enough people say, "Your kingdom come," when enough people are filled with the divine part of God, the kingdom of heaven comes upon earth. And that is how God moves. But not only moving in our hearts, God also moves in the farmers' hearts through the work of the patrol pastors. These people who go into farmers' houses right in the midst of the pain and are able to bring hope to them in the midst of their despair. That even though everything terrible is going on, somehow they're able to find hope, peace, and trust. So firstly, God moves in our hearts to help them. But then secondly, God moves by putting pastors in their path. That although they don't know what the future holds, they know who holds the future. Which is what Julie was talking about. The promises of God, and they can hold on to them. God still moves today, tilting our world a little, but more powerfully moving in our hearts to bring love and compassion. Lord, move our hearts west today.